The G1 Climax is in the final stretch. We have just 2 nights left in each block before we know the block winners. GCW ran their Fight Club show over the weekend, and I'm off to Miami for 2 nights of AEW action this weekend. I'm Ryan Joy, and I run MinutesToBellTime.com, a website and database tracking pro wrestling around the world. On today's show, we're going to talk through the G1 Climax standings, touch on GCW, and we'll preview AEW Rampage and Dynamite from the James L. Knight Center. We also have headlines from the last 24 hours. Travis Severance is in the house, and this is the Daily Wrestling News Show for October 12th, 2021, where we sort through all the bullshit in wrestling news to find you the truth. All right, Travis. Well, welcome to the show, but you're about to break your Dynamite streak.
I am. Yep. 2 in a row, ends possibly this week. I don't know. I was looking at flights. They were less than $500 to get down there. I'm not sure how quick I can get out of town. I got an event on Sunday to go to. So I don't know. The 6 a.m. following a Dynamite where we usually get out of there by the time we're done a little later. But you know what? Actually, if they're doing the Rampage on Friday and the Dynamite is on Saturday, that means conceivably we'd be out by 10:30-ish with a dark match. So 6 a.m. out isn't as hard as I think. So I don't know. I'm gonna have to take a look. We'll see what I can do with the dogs. If I can get them house sat, then you know what? Maybe I'll take a trip down to Miami. I'm certainly not staying for the Dolphins game. They're pretty awful.
Well, Miami's a quick 2-hour commute for us, so I'll be driving right down there to see Rampage and Dynamite. We're gonna break all that down in a few minutes, including the AEW World Title Eliminator. We have no idea who's going to be in it, but we can theorize about some names and see if we can't pick out a winner in a few minutes. But first, we want to start with the G1 Climax. We're getting toward the end, and it's funny to say that we're toward the end when we have literally 5 more shows full of matches, about 38 matches left. But at this point, we're so many matches in, the leaders have really broken away from the pack. But in A block, right now, we have what is essentially a 4-way tie. Kota Ibushi technically has 12 points, which is a 2-point lead over Sabre, Takagi, and Kenta, who all have 10 points. But Kota Ibushi is getting the gift of Naito not wrestling. So he's got a 2-point bump over the others who have already taken their Naito into account. So it's interesting. Kota Ibushi is looking at trying to get his 3rd G1 in a row, but he doesn't have a clean path.
No, he doesn't. It is definitely a 4-horse race. My prediction of Okan is not going to make its way out. So it's interesting. We've got Ibushi with 12. We've got Sabre, Kenta, and Shingo all with 10. And what we try to do, and we talked about this in the opener when we were talking about the G1, is we really look at the schedule on the last night. Yeah. We take a look at who the competitors are that would be super interesting, because they want the last night to be exciting. They want it to kind of come down to the last match. Like there's a built-in main event for that. Then when that happens, and unfortunately for me, final night is Ibushi versus Kenta, and Kenta's got 10 and Ibushi's got 12, and Kenta's got Tangaloa, who GOD, for as good as they are, tag teams are pretty poor in singles tournaments, and we're starting to see that here. So Tangaloa seems like a gift. That means we're going to go into the final night with Ibushi and Kenta both having 12, potentially with the with that match coming down to deciding it all. I don't think Shingo going against Okan, he could get knocked off there, and Sabre could lose to duct tape from Yano to keep him down as well. Which we talk about how New Japan's good because the booking isn't easy to see all the time, or the long booking is easier to see than the short booking, but it does feel like this is going to be Ibushi versus Kenta, and I don't know. I don't see Kenta beating Ibushi. I see Ibushi going to the finals.
No.
Now whether he wins or not, we'll see, but I really, really, really do not want to see Ibushi versus Okada.
So here's where we stand. Ibushi, he needs to win out, and his opponents need to. He needs to have all three of the others not win their final two matches, right? So if Saber beats Yano and then Tonga Loa, which does seem like an easy road, but like you mentioned, anybody can lose to Yano on any night. If Saber wins those two matches, Ibushi cannot win. If Takagi beats Great Okan and Yujiro Takahashi, Ibushi cannot win. If
Because they
Kenta,
each have victories over Ibushi.
yes, those two guys do.
And
And
they'd be
then if
tied at
Kenta,
14.
right, well, they'll be tied at 12, and then whoever gets the win
Sure.
in the final night. And then if Kenta defeats Tongaloa and then Ibushi, then Ibushi can't win there. So you could have all of them sitting at 14 points. Ibushi mathematically eliminated because Kenta, Saber, and Takagi all beat him. And then you have to look at those three guys and see who beat each other. So it gets really complicated there. I don't know if I would pick Kenta to win this, and Ibushi seems like a far fetch at this point. So I wonder if it's going to go into the last night, and that Kenta Ibushi match is going to determine whether it's Kenta or Takagi winning or something like that. Sometimes that happens.
That could be. I don't know. Bushi's kind of the golden boy, legitimately the golden star. So
Looking for his third G1 in a row. Yeah.
yeah,
So
it's a story that's never been told, I guess. Like he's on a lifetime contract.
sure.
As much as I enjoy the predictions the other way, I still think it's Ibushi's night. It gives him a lot to talk about. Oh, if he loses to Kenta, yada yada yada.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is though we'll just revisit this when it gets after the next night of action.
One
So the
more
next,
round is going to make things very clear, probably. You know.
yeah, and they wrestle tomorrow is the next set of matches for A block.
Yep.
And then it's October 18th, which what day is that? That's
6 days from now, so Monday.
Monday. Yeah, so then when we're talking next week, we're going to know. So
Right.
so
Right.
so that'll be good. And then on the B block side, it's a 3-horse race. Tanahashi, Sanada, Taichi, Yoshihashi, Tamatanga, Hiroki Goto, Chase Owens, all mathematically eliminated. Okada and Cobb tied at the top, 14 points, both 7-0. Evil is behind them. He's 12 points, 6-1. And so, oh, by the way, I didn't think about this until just now. A draw in any of these matches really screws things up too.
Oh, sure. Sure.
Because then
Absolutely.
each person gets 1 point. I
Yep.
don't think we're going to see a Zack Sabre, Toru Yano 20-minute draw. That's not typically how Yano rolls, but nor do I think they're putting Yujiro in there for the time limit. So
No, I would agree with that. You know, it's interesting looking at the other block here. I think we called it chalk when we were going into the preview here. I think I had Okada and Cobb, and you were the one that definitely mentioned Evil being potential, and I didn't think about Evil until you had mentioned it. And like, here we are, we've got Okada, Cobb, and Evil. And unlike the other block, we got Cobb and Okada. Well, last night's going to be interesting because we got Cobb and Okada against each other, and we have Evil against Sonata, former LIJ guys against each other. So, you know, the story could be Sonata knocking Evil off and Evil not getting the chance to win. But the Cobb match is really important too. Like, you know, all of them are commingling with each other. So this block, I think, coming down to the end was much more predictable in that there's not as much cross wrestling going there. The three of these guys are all going to fight each other towards the end here. So with the exception of Evil not fighting Okada.
So what's difficult about this though is that Jeff Cobb faces Evil and then Jeff Cobb faces Okada. So those are Cobb's last two matches. So theoretically, he has the hardest path here. Now, Cobb, he could lose to Evil and then beat Okada and win. He would tie Okada in points.
Yep.
And that he would go into the last night 2 points behind Okada.
Mm-hmm.
Theoretically, if Okada beats Tamatanga. So Cobb could actually lose to Evil and be 2 points behind Okada and then beat Okada, and they have a tie score, but because Cobb beat Okada, he wins. What Evil has to beat Jeff Cobb. He has to beat Sonata, and then Okada has to lose to both Tamatanga and Jeff Cobb.
in order
So
to win.
in
Yeah.
order to win, so Evil he's got very tough road. So when we're talking about this next week, we're going to be looking at because this one's on the final night of this is on the 20th, which is actually the day Wednesday, so it's a week and a day away. So
Yeah.
previewing the Cobb and Okada final, I think.
Yeah. I would agree with that. And I called Cobb as my winner in the beginning. Um, I like his momentum. Obviously, he's done well in this tournament and stuff like that. Cobb Ibushi is not something I remember seeing. Um, I don't know if they've ever tangled with each other, so it's a super interesting match. Cobb's a hell of a story if he were to run the table,
Yeah,
because that means that it would be Cobb Osprey at some point for Will's title, in the conversation there.
in theory.
Or it could go the other way. Shingo could put him down. I'm glad that Shingo is on the comeback trail because the beginning of the tournament did not work out really well for him. So it looks
No.
like, he's probably going to end this at 14, but I think everybody on top of him has beat him. So
Yeah.
he doesn't realistically have a chance of winning at all.
Well, and it's funny. It's like all this math to get into the final, and then it doesn't matter. The points go away, and it's head to head. It's going to be one of these guys on the A block versus one of these guys on the B block. So I do think it would be very interesting. If they're trying to build Cobb up into to one of the top tier guys, if he goes clean 8-0 through or 9-0, what does he have to be 10-0 through the whole G1? That's something I don't think that's ever been done either. So
Yeah, I'm kind of surprised too. I mean, we talked about it and how important the English-speaking wrestlers are with regard to the brand pressing out into English-speaking wrestling fans like ourselves. So seeing Saber and Cobb have the kind of tournaments that they have, given that most of the other English speakers are stateside,
sure,
I don't think was surprising for us. I guess Saber's start was very surprising for me. Then he cooled off a little bit. It's interesting to see them put this much on Jeff Cobb because Jeff Cobb's
a
uh,
talker.
not a talker at all. But I think he's interesting in that he can talk and he speaks English and he has the body type that a Japanese wrestling fan enjoys watching, and he can go, up or down, and he's fine with that. It would be I would be very surprised, even though I picked him, if he won. Um, it is not a tip. He's not your typical G1 Climax winner. Outside of, I guess, if we went back and we looked at Goto's wins a long time ago,
It was a
similar
different New
body type,
Japan though.
different New Japan, right? Um, so it would be, if Jeff Cobb won, it would be remarkable.
Yeah,
Um,
and like we said, he has to beat Evil. He has to beat Okada, and he'd have to beat either Ibushi or Takagi, probably, right? Like him beating Saber and him beating Kenta is less of a deal,
right.
but him beating Ibushi or Takagi would be a big deal.
Given where they are in the world of New Japan right now, absolutely, absolutely.
The other English-speaking competitors were Chase Owens with 2 points,
No,
Tamatanga with 4 points, Tonga Loa with 4 points. So
yeah, those good. It was a good try, guys.
better luck next year. But I don't know. I love the G1. I didn't get to watch near as much of it as I wanted to this year because, I was traveling and things. So
Well, I think too, and it's tough to say, but I think, if we're gonna criticize the right way, um, compared to previous G1s that we've had the opportunity to be involved in and take a look at, I think this is probably the least exciting one with regard to competitors. There wasn't any surprises. You've got all the crap going on with the COVID, and a bunch of people are stateside that, we enjoy watching, or at least I do. Like Jay White not going out of the ring for a couple of minutes has been a loss for me. But it's been interesting for us on stateside as far as wrestling fans go, because we get to see him in a lot of different settings and stuff. So like I wouldn't trade that for the world, but it certainly has made the G1 feel a little bit lighter, and we definitely see that on the B block side with
yeah.
it being so top heavy.
The other thing, about this, with the G1 being the Wrestle Kingdom being 3 nights, kind of takes a little shine off the G1 too, because 3 people are presumably getting title shots
Yep.
with 3 nights of Wrestle Kingdom. Even last year when they had 2 nights of Wrestle Kingdom, I felt the same way the last 2 years. So it takes just a little bit of shine off the G1 because you're the G1, you were building for that one guy to get that one big shot, and now it feels like there's a lot of ways to book out of that.
Yeah, it does definitely give them the flexibility. Although, given the stuff that they've gone through in the last 2 years, I think they probably want that flexibility a little
Yeah,
bit
no kidding.
between injuries and illness. Like they've been pounded on really bad, and had to move championships around and different things like that. So it's probably them, hedging a little bit. So I get it. But yeah, it is less climactic than previously,
True.
which was cool. We're gonna have this one shot, and it's gonna be really big, and it's gonna be match of the night for sure. And you know, but yeah, we're gonna see a little bit of flexibility on that end of it. So hopefully they make it matter. Like if they have some residual stuff kind of that flows through from day 1 to day 2, and then we got the break and we go back to day 3, and it's like almost like a brand new event, but we got some throwbacks from before. I think it could be really interesting depending on how they decide to book it. So
Yeah, absolutely. All right, let's move into GCW over the weekend. I talked about this a little bit with Al yesterday, and I don't know if we'll get into a whole bunch more today, but uh, John Moxley retained the GCW championship at Fight Club with a win over Nick Gage. Thunder Rosa made an appearance. The Briscoes appeared. Uh, Man, the Briscoes in GCW, that is something interesting.
yeah, I like it. We never see that. Like they don't leave home.
Mm-mm.
Uh So them showing up with their scruffiness and gosh, showing up in the ring against Second Gear Crew, which are just as dirty and nasty as they are, which that's hard to find out there in the
Yeah,
world of tag team
the
wrestling.
perfect match.
We got two guys. To steal from JR, there's no way this isn't a slobber knocker.
Right.
It's kind of a limited thing. Like we don't see the Briscoes out among everybody else. So I mean, hell of a thing to book. There's no way that it's not a good match. I'm interested to see the Briscoes in the GCW ring. Like,
And it's going to be in Los Angeles, which I said to my wife, I was like, I don't think the Briscoes have ever been to Los Angeles, and she says, I don't know if I didn't know they ever traveled. So
yeah, they're gonna be that's like the four ugliest people in Los Angeles when you get that ring going, right? Like that there's no prettiness to them. I'm sure that the
no,
restaurants are gonna like I'm not sure if the cut off camouflage jorts is gonna make it on Rodeo Drive, but we'll see. We'll see.
yeah,
It's a
yeah,
interesting, it'll be like the hillbillies go. Hopefully they do some kind of a vlog or something like that with them walking in the streets of LA because it would be really funny.
yeah, yeah. Maybe the Young Bucks can capture that on theirs.
There
Since
you go. Yeah,
they'll
I mean
already be
Rancho
doing it.
Cucamonga,
Yeah,
get them up there. Who knows? Maybe the Bucks will appear in the ring too.
it's a crazy world. They also made a major announcement. January 23rd, they're going to be running the Hammerstein Ballroom. They being GCW, by the way. Hammerstein Ballroom, a big venue in comparison to what GCW normally runs. This is a 2,000 seat venue in New York City. Brett Lauderdale came to the ring to make the announcement. He got interrupted by Matt Cardona early in the show, so then he had to come out later in the show. When he finally got to spit it out, he basically said that all he's heard for the last several years is that there's been the people have seen a million GCWs come and go, and that this was a big FU to all those people who thought there was a bunch of GCWs. He said there's only one GCW, and everybody who thinks that way can, well, S his D, I guess.
Hmm.
We'll say it that way.
Yeah, I'll give Brett props for it's a unique product, and we've talked about that before. There is realistically only one GCW. Now we've got XPW that's coming out of the woodwork that's actually going to have a show in Rochester, which I'm terrified to think about. Like that's the one that's famous for all the
Yeah.
crazy violent stuff. But GCW is a unique product. I think we've been fortunate enough to be able to catch some of the best indies out there. I think we're a little short on maybe some of the southern promotions. Like we certainly haven't gotten to see a lot of the Texas indies. But as far as like indies go, top notch stuff now. We've got GCW, AAW, CCW, the Maryland promotion, MCW. And then it's kind of everything else kind of comes to the bottom. Black Label Pro, obviously great. Gorilla, really, really good. But again, limited shows with them. So people that are running consistently, I think that's kind of the tops of the indies. And each of them are different, right? CCW is very, very different than AAW, which is very different than GCW. GCW, I think, is on fire right now, and a lot of that has to do with Nick Gage, the Dark Side of the Ring stuff, Cardona, Moxley showing up. Like, there's additional legitimacy that's being provided to them. But again, that's guys that recognize a place that's on fire and they want to go and they want to be part of it. Minoru Suzuki showing up definitely doesn't hurt. So Brett's right. Hammerstein is interesting. Obviously there's a ton of history with ECW and stuff like that. So them running that, I would be very surprised if we don't see some ECW originals a la what we saw in Philly with AEW. I think if they did miss that, it'd be silly. My guess would be Sabu, because it just fits really, really well with their brand. That would be a hell of a get him out there and get the crowd pumped up, and maybe we'll see like Sandman or somebody like that too.
Sandman will take a payday for sure,
without a doubt. He could use the check.
Yeah, we just saw Crowbar and Blue Meanie. They were on Dark Elevation last night. They were in Philadelphia for Dynamite.
Yeah,
so that's a possibility as well. So Thunder Rosa, the Briscoes, Leo Rush was on the card. Just fun from top to bottom. And then they had their aftermath show the next night where you had Minoru Suzuki versus Joey Janella. It was fun to watch Suzuki not sell anything Joey Janella tried on him. And then eventually, after he defeated Joey Janella, Chris Dickinson again came out. And Chris Dickinson and Suzuki are going to be fighting at New Japan coming up here in Philadelphia pretty soon. But Dickinson let Minoru Suzuki know that they have some unfinished business in GCW. So apparently that's all going to come to a head as well.
Good stuff all around. I mean, GCW is on fire. And if you're not paying attention to it or going back and buying some of the stuff, it is a little bit to get used to the cast of characters, but it is a very unique presentation. And if you're a wrestling fan, what's interesting is, even though it kind of touches base with a bunch of different promotions, their storylines actually exist within themselves. It's captured inside of their own story. I mean, it bleeds out a little bit just because of the names and the recognition and where some stuff comes in, but they actually are an indie with storylines that you see that perpetuate from show to show to show. And a lot of times with indie wrestling, it's just two good wrestlers matched up against each other where they're telling a story in the ring, and that's kind of all we get to see. GCW isn't that way. We have storylines that kind of continue, and that's death match to regulars to tags and stuff like that. So they do a great job.
All right, so let's go ahead and take a break. And as I send people into the break, let me just put out here that the King of the Ring is down to 4 guys. We got Sami Zayn versus Finn Balor this Friday, Jinder Mahal versus Xavier Woods on Monday, and then Queen's Crown is Zelina Vega and Carmella. They'll be facing each other Friday. Shayna Baszler and Doudrop on Monday Night Raw. So that's our royalty brackets, how they've broken down over the last couple of shows in WWE. I'm going to send everybody to break. When we get back, we're going to talk about AEW Dynamite and Rampage from Miami this weekend. So stick with us and we'll be right back. If you love the Daily Wrestling News Show, then I want to tell you how you can support us. First, check out bodyslamclothes.com. You can get a variety of shirts for just $20, and all of them come in the super soft style, and the price you see includes all sizes and shipping. Get 10% off 2 or more shirts with the promo code SHIRTS10. Go to bodyslamclothes.com right now to check it out. And join Joey Jarzenka, Ian Schreier, and Rob DeLuca on Friday nights for the Primetime Rundown. They take you through the world of sports, and the show kicks off each Friday at 7 p.m. on the Eastern Observer. And each Tuesday, Al Carl hosts the Essential Wrestling Podcast alongside John Smith, myself, John DeConnie, and Gary Mahaffey. It's another week of updates and highlights in the world of wrestling. Here are our analysis on who we think is going to win the week's matches. Coverage begins at 6 p.m. on the Eastern Observer. Pro Wrestling Pick'em. It's a place where you can join or host a Pick'em League to test your predictive skills in the world of pro wrestling. Create an account and join a league now at ProWrestlingPick'em.com so you can play against your friends or play against the universe. And the Body Slam Brigade newsletter, currently going out to over 4,200 people each Friday. It consolidates all the top stories in professional wrestling into a quick-to-read email written by me, for you, for free. Sign up now at BodyslamBrigade.com. And of course, this show, the Daily Wrestling News Show. We're here every day, Monday through Thursday, and occasionally on Friday. You can listen to us on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, or watch us live on Facebook and YouTube at 10 a.m. This is the Daily Wrestling News Show, and we thank you for your support. All right, we are back. And Travis, I guess before we get started, did you want to pick a winner in the King of the Ring and the Queen's Crown?
So it's interesting. I listened to the show yesterday. It seemed like you and Al called the finals pretty well. As far as like feeling like a Zelina Vega versus Shayna.
Yeah.
Although I could see them hosing Zelina again, as they love to do that.
I'll
I
tell you, I can
I
see either Zelina or Carmella going, and if anybody was going to beat Baszler out of the bracket, I'll give it to Dewdrop, I guess. So
yeah. I don't think they're sending Dewdrop overseas. So I think we're going to see Shayna. I would agree with Shayna on that side, and then
Sammy's
Xavier
not
Woods.
going.
Sammy's not going. So Xavier Woods has never won anything other than the tag belt and stuff. And like, I'm positive they're like, he's the only one in the New Day that doesn't have any legitimacy, yada, yada, yada. So Xavier Woods feels like the fan favorite to give him something that's your participation trophy. Congratulations, you're King of the Ring. You can be in the hallowed halls of Baron Corbin. And
Do they need to send Jinder over there and give him a win?
I don't know. Are they gonna? Do you think they're so Jinder's age now? Do they hitch their wagon to Jinder? Like, does he need a thing? I guess he does probably need a thing. I I don't know. Um, WWE does some crazy stuff, and like that Crown Jewel event, which I hate. I don't know. It feels like they're putting more into that event that's tied to the show this year than the last 2 years. It sort of felt like it
Yeah.
existed on its own before, and now this year they're like really making it part of the thing. I enjoyed it better when it was extricated, so I didn't have to pay attention to it or anything. And it sucks that it's this way this year. Um,
Yeah, they had a title change, I think, last year. Goldberg, or
yeah,
the February show, Goldberg beat The Fiend for the title,
sure,
which was the only place they could do it because that would have got booed out of every building in the United States. So,
legitimately. Yeah, I
yeah.
mean it was very convenient that they were in that space to have that happen. Um,
Yeah.
I don't know. It I saw something going around the internet where it was like somebody from them from their organization had asked if they could get CM Punk and Bryan Danielson to wrestle
Yes.
each other.
Exactly.
They didn't realize that they were in AEW, not WWE. So I guess that was an uncomfortable conversation. But
They
I don't
don't
know if I had
understand. They don't
if I
understand
had
that
to
there's only one wrestling company.
right exactly. So if I had to call it, I'd say Woods Baszler is probably the easy out there.
We'll
I
see.
don't know if
Right.
I don't know if it
Yeah.
matters.
It probably doesn't long term.
Yep.
Maybe on the women's side, this is the first Queen's Crown tournament. Potentially this is a star making moment for one of these people because of the four of them that are in the tournament here, none of them have any credentials in the
None.
main roster space. Shayna Baszler was the NXT Women's Champion forever, and she's such a dominant player. But in the main roster, I mean, she had a good tag team run, I guess, but she hasn't hit that level. Even
I
the
mean,
WrestleMania with Becky Lynch, she still hasn't hit that level. I don't think so.
let's call it like it is. They've had her lose 21 times this year to roll up in Raw
Sure,
on TV.
she's very susceptible to it, so that could happen in either of the
the,
next two matches.
if the roll up comes out, sorry Shayna, but you're done.
All right, so let's talk about AEW. So we have Rampage from. So this special programming note, by the way, SmackDown this week is on FS1, and it has an extra half hour, runs till 10:30. Rampage and Dynamite. Rampage on the regular schedule, 10 to 11 on TNT. Dynamite will be on Saturday, 8 to 10 on TNT. So, Rampage, what they have is they have the Inner Circle versus the Men of the Year. That's Chris Jericho, Sammy Guevara, and Jake Hager versus Ethan Page, Scorpio Sky, and Junior Dos Santos. So that's the first match: CM Punk versus Matt Seidel, and then Ruby Soho versus the Bunny.
Yeah, so I don't think this is the end of Inner Circle versus Men of the Year.
No,
There's no way this is the culmination. So I feel like Man of the Year and Junior Dos Santos ends up getting a victory here. I think we're gonna see.
It's got to go to Full Gear, right?
some
Somehow, some way,
nonsense
somehow.
happening. Yeah, and I could see them peeling off Sammy to fight their champion too, who's gone in and given knees a couple of different times. Punk versus Seidel. This just feels like another Punk win to me. Like they're building him up. He had been interviewed and said his body feels like trash because he's taking bumps, but it's like, you know what, I got to get callous and I got to do my thing. So, um,
He's
I
in there with Matt Seidel, who has wrestled consistently for what 15, 20 years.
yeah,
So it's a good
he's
opponent for him.
he's taken some very intelligent matches um, since he's been in. This will be his fourth match. This to me feels like the safest opponent, I guess I would say, for him.
Sure.
Seidel, Randy Orton is quick to say he could, land a shooting star press on a postage stamp. He's so accurate with what he does. So I see that that's probably an easy Punk victory, and who knows, maybe we're setting something else up there. Face versus face is interesting. Because we don't see that a lot, and there's not like there's any real heat that's there. Ruby versus Bunny again. This feels like another a Ruby victory here, unless they're trying to set something up for that.
Ruby
Long.
doesn't have any allies. I think that's the big
No.
difference in that match
Yep.
because Penelope Ford's going to be down there with the Bunny, and well, they've had their issues with Anna Jay and Tay Conti. Anna Jay and Tay Conti not exactly aligned with Ruby Soho, so it doesn't really make sense that they would be out there. But
Well, so I think what we saw last week though was Ruby coming down to save Sheeta.
yeah,
So
yeah,
maybe Sheeta comes down and we're setting ourselves up with a tag match down the road for the two of them.
okay.
So maybe we see Sheeta come back. It seems like they're definitely mixing Sheeta back into the picture again, and Ruby Sheeta is interesting to me.
Or do you just go, or does Serena Deeb come out as another person who's going to be getting Ruby's face, and that's the match that we go to next, just a jump at
Yeah,
the end,
yeah, we could see that for sure.
That's a
Man,
great undercard match for Full Gear if that's what they're
w-
building to.
w- yeah, without a doubt, without a doubt.
Yeah.
Um, So it should be a fun show. It'll be interesting to see what other stuff happens there because I think in an odd twist, like Rampage is setting the table for Dynamite versus the other way,
Yeah.
right? So we
Yeah.
got to see some other stuff, and there's certainly not, I think we've only got what 3 matches announced for Dynamite, so we're going to see another 2 to 3. So some
Yeah.
stuff might happen that way, and like they're going to have to stretch that show a little bit too because people are buying tickets and different things like that.
Yeah. The doors open at 7 o'clock for this 10 p.m. show. So I
Yeah,
presume that they have about 2 hours worth of AEW Dark that they're going to film live
yeah, yep,
ahead of this, and then on Dynamite they'll do Dark Elevation.
yep,
So
yep. I would agree with that.
yeah. So on on Dynamite, they're announcing the AEW World Title Eliminator Tournament brackets. I would have liked it better if they were announcing those brackets on Rampage, because then presumably a couple of the matches could have been on Dynamite. Now, that could still happen.
Sure.
What they could do is that on Rampage they could say, "We're announcing the tournament and you're going to get 2 matches, the next night or whatever." But
Yep.
the matches we have so far is Dante Martin versus Malachi Black, the Lucha Bros versus Andrade's handpicked masked team, and then you have Brian Danielson versus Bobby Fish. So starting with Danielson and Fish, I think this is a much better matchup for Fish than Sammy Guevara was. I think
I
the styles are
agree.
better.
Yeah, the styles line up a lot better. Um, and it sounds funny to say, but the we've talked about it before. The WWE style of wrestling is similar. So I think when the two of these get together and they put together the match, although they've got obviously the flexibility and the freedom that AEW gives them, I think they're used to working a certain way. And this fits a lot better. It's curious that we're going right from Fish to Danielson. Like, I don't know, for months or over a year, it feels like a lot of the matches were built off of other stories and things like that, and we've certainly got away from that definitely this week, and then you know um a little bit before as well. So these are kind of matches that are just kind of thrown together, half of them,
Is it?
which
Or is this a continuation of some elite stuff? Because is
yeah,
Bobby Fish going to rejoin Adam Cole?
it could be. I don't know, like
Feels a little weird.
does that make sense, like Bobby Fish with the elite?
It doesn't.
I know they need guys to take pins, so
Exactly.
so
It it makes sense to me that he could align himself with Adam Cole. I don't know about all the rest, but maybe Adam Cole, Kenny Omega has Nakazawa, and the Young Bucks have Brandon Cutler. Maybe Adam Cole gets Bobby Fish. I hate to put Bobby Fish in that spot, but maybe.
Yeah. Gosh, I don't know. Maybe that could happen. It feels NWO to me, like we're gonna bring in this guy and this other guy. Like it's much more interesting to me if the story is Bobby at some point getting to Adam and them
Yeah,
being booked separate from each other for a little bit, and then kind of bumping into each other a little bit, and then we have that match at some point. Um, versus just kind of smashing them together again. I mean, I don't know. They've worked together with each other for years. Do
yeah,
they really like each other that much? Like, this certainly isn't the vacation that the Young Bucks and Adam Cole had from each other to get to this space.
sure,
Like,
sure.
hey, Bobby, just saw you a week ago. Like, here you
Yeah,
are.
yeah,
That
yeah,
kind of thing. So, I don't know. I hope it's not. I'd rather see Bobby somewhere else. I Bobby's interesting for me with Men of the Year as an example, or um, Bobby would be interesting to me with Kazarian as an example.
sure, yeah,
So there's a couple of different spots that I'd like to see him kind of fit in rather than just going to the easy chalky pick of he'll be part of Elite. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if that style faction is the same. They're certainly very different than Undisputed Era.
sure, sure. I don't know if Bobby has the comedy chops that are required to be in the Super Elite.
I would agree with that. Yep.
All right, so Dante Martin versus Malachi Black. I think the thing to predict here is maybe the length of the match. I mean, it's going to be the winner is easy. The length of the match is what's going to be hard.
Yeah, so it's curious booking to me. I mean, obviously the segment last week was awesome, and the photos that came out of that were very cool. The lights going off, and there he is to kill. Maybe this is an example of them not being sure how hot Dante is, or them just not being confident that Dante can carry that spot right now, and they don't have him booked. So maybe there's a little WWE here where they're like, you know what, we've got so many storylines and different angles going on towards the top of the card that this will bring him back down to earth, and we could maybe recycle him back into the tag division if we've got something coming up with that. It's he's certainly feeling like the sacrificial lamb to the House of Black here, unless something
Yeah.
really strange happens, and I just don't see Malachi Black losing to this opponent based on who he's gone through to get to this space.
Well, and it also appeared to me that this whole Cody Rhodes thing is not over
Nope.
because Cody called him out on a Dynamite. That's when Arn Anderson got in his face, and then they continued the Arn Anderson thing on Dynamite last week with the burn barrel and stuff like that. So ultimately, we're going back to Cody and Malachi Black, and Cody will probably get the win in the end. But um, so I think he'll roll through Dante Martin, and I don't know where we go exactly from there. But yeah. Now the Lucha Bros defending the AAA Tag Team Championships against a handpicked team. Thoughts?
Let's get the mass on AOP.
You think it's
We're gonna
AOP?
bring AOP out. They're gonna be big bruisers. They're bigger than Andrade. They don't have to
Is there
talk. They don't
something
have
that
to do
makes you
much.
think that? Like, is I don't know. Are you following AOP and are they saying something or whatever? Like, what's making you think that?
No, I mean the internet kicks up some names and some
Sure.
ideas around the world, and it was something that came across my feed a couple of days ago, and I was like, you know what? That's curious. I haven't really thought about AOP for a little while. I thought that their run in WWE um, was short and curious, but could have been better than what it was.
Yeah.
And to speak about sort of filling out your dance card when it comes to the tag division, they are very Bear Country esque in terms of
Mhm.
size. And we don't have a lot of tag teams in AEW that are like that, right? So they put some size and they put some actual muscle there. I think if you go the other direction and you get some luchas that are smaller than Andrade that are the tag thing, I think we just end up with this lucha house party style thing. I think that Andrade needs to be bigger pitbull, like give me some big dudes and make our faction like Grizzly and stuff. So that you don't want to mess with them. Like, how do you put in a team like if Andrade is going to eventually maybe take a swing at Lucha Bros, you got to put somebody in there that like you can't have them be, Lucha Bros light, right? Where we see, don't get me
Yeah.
wrong, if he wants to drag out Dragon Bane and Laredo Kid, I'm gonna celebrate it and be perfectly happy with something like that. Or, there's a whole other direction that he could go. We could see Psycho Clown and a bunch of those guys too that could come out, and it would be really interesting depending on who they decide to pull from that fold. And we could see Dr. Wagner. I don't know. Like, there's some
Dragon Lee and
interesting people there.
Dralistico called out the Lucha Bros at AAA, and I
Sure.
was thinking of those two leading into this, but then they did all this on AAA. They haven't had a match there yet, so
Right.
and they haven't announced a match, so I don't know.
Yeah, it's
So they're
I don't know.
haunting
Like,
them there. I don't know if that leads into AEW at all.
right, exactly. And it doesn't. I don't know. It hasn't felt like a ton of that stuff has really bled over all that much. Like, we have AAA people running around all over the place. I think, gosh, almost all the titles are in AEW right now. Well, other than Diana, right? Like,
Diana, yeah.
yeah, they have shared workers all over the place. So I don't know. It seems fun to speculate on that.
And Dragon Lee's in Ring of Honor, so
Right, exactly. Yeah.
so very Forbidden Door ish.
Yeah, we'll see, and we'll see if this tag team sticks. Right? Maybe it's just a one and done for this specific match, and then we go somewhere else.
All right, the world title eliminator. This is tough because we don't have any brackets. We don't know what we're talking about quite yet, but we are talking on the men's division side. So think of your names. You got your. Is this just Bryan Danielson running through the whole thing to get back to Kenny Omega? I don't feel like we need to do that because he has a draw with him, right? It feels like you just can go back to it. But maybe that's what they do. Maybe this is CM Punk rolling through 4 more guys and he gets a title shot. By the way, I say that with the theory out there that it's probably going to be Hangman Page versus Kenny Omega at Full Gear, and then the winner of this tournament is going to face the winner of that match, and that's not, that could be Hangman. So it's hard to pick whether we're going with a face or a heel for this thing.
So that's why I'm going for it with a heel. I think this is going to be Hangman beating Omega finally, and Kenny getting some much deserved time off, at least as far as the AEW side goes.
Yeah.
So I'm going to call MJF winning this tournament.
Oh, that's a good one. Yeah, MJF is good because he's not okay. So what would be nice in that case is that if you put the 4 pillars in each corner of the bracket and you do, whether you do 8 or 16, but you put one of those guys in each corner, that would be fun. If you put, and then you work it in, maybe MJF wins. So
I think this tournament finale will very much tell us the direction that Omega Page match goes.
Yeah. I'll tell you though, I don't want to see MJF in another title match unless he's going to win.
Oh, I agree with that, and I think that's a hard thing. Is Hangman the first one to like have a short title run? I mean, he's got the kid coming up. They could get him in there, get him out. I think fans would go wild in a number of different ways. But you know what? Somebody's got to do it, right?
Yeah.
We gotta have a quick title change. If every title reign is going to be a year long for everybody on the heavyweight side of things, like, I don't know, it could be a quick turnaround. Like MJF, he needs to hold the belt for about an hour, and then he can run his mouth about it forever, and they could, get some kind of a cheap victory from him or whatever, and move on. But boy,
I think you could do that with a Moxley too, right? He's somebody who's already had his long title run. He could do a quick drop. Hangman Page though feels like too climactic of a story to have a short title run.
Yeah, so I think it'll depend on what the spacing is for this, right? Like, we build to it. I mean, Max has come out and he certainly did the promo, the Bruce Pritchard promo, and I never get an opportunity or anything like that. I mean, back-to-back Dynamite ring winner. He's set up to be a good spot for this.
Maybe it's Guevara. Maybe MJF and Guevara wrestle next too.
Sure. Or I could see Jungle Boy, like Jungle Boy and MJF have wrestled a lot and some good matches too, right? I don't see this as Darby's run, but maybe. But yeah, they've certainly made a big deal of the 4 pillars, and I'd be surprised if that's not at least 4 of the competitors. Like, there's no reason for it not to be. They're kind of, none of them are in the middle of a serious feud, so it's set up to be a good story here.
Yeah, do you throw Christian Cage in here, and maybe you throw? Seems like Jericho's busy, so you don't have to put him in here.
I
Moxley
think it,
probably.
I think if you do the Max thing, if you put Wardlow on the same side of the bracket as Max, we could finally have the Wardlow MJF blow up in the middle of this thing too
Sure.
for the
Yep.
event. I think that's interesting. I think you got to have Luchasaurus in this match as well. He's been on fire lately. It just depends. I wish I knew if it was going to be an 8 or a 16. It'd be easier to call it.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. MJF is a fun pick. If I'm picking an opponent for Kenny Omega, I'm just going to go Bryan Danielson all
I
the way
agree
through.
with that.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, all right. That being said, I got a couple of headlines. Blue Origin announced yesterday that WWE Hall of Famer William Shatner will become the oldest person to travel to space at age 90. And to which I said, well, he does have the most impractical experience of anybody out there. So
Yes, I would agree with that. That's like saying that, Indiana Jones is a lovely archaeologist.
right, exactly. So Harrison Ford would obviously get that gig.
Mhm.
Mansoor versus Mustafa Ali is now set for Crown Jewel. I
Yay!
don't think Mansoor's ever lost in
He's
Saudi
undefeated.
Arabia.
He's undefeated in
Yeah.
Saudi Arabia. Good luck, Mustafa Ali.
He was pretty much undefeated until he got to the main roster. Then they immediately beat him. So,
Yes.
Ring of Honor announced that Final Battle will be December 11th in Baltimore. So, it's
No surprises
basically
there.
Ring of Honor is basically it's their territory, Baltimore, I guess now. So it's like,
MCW light.
yeah, it's yeah, it's a territory. Yeah, their territory goes from Baltimore to Philly and back.
And it's final battle, but it's certainly not going to be the final battle.
Right. So that's their big show of the year, December 11th. I was there December 13th, 2019 to watch PCO win on Friday the 13th. So that was fun. But
Yeah.
But since then, they pretty much haven't had fans. So, and they lost Marty Squirrel. Tonight on NXT 2.0, we have Tommaso Ciampa versus Joe Gacy. If Joe Gacy wins, he will be added to the Halloween Havoc title match between Ciampa and Braun Breaker. Isaiah Swerve Scott versus Santo Escobar. That's for the North American Championship tonight. And of course, we know Swerve Scott was called up to the main roster, so feels like this might be a title change. Pete Dunne and Ridge Holland versus Kyle O'Reilly and Von Wagner. And of course, Holland also called up to the main roster. So
Yeah, this feels a little predetermined tonight, but maybe we'll get some swerves here.
Or some Santoses.
Yeah, so I would agree with that. And is Joe Gacy the next Bryan Danielson?
It looks a little like him, doesn't he?
He's just trying to hone his way into those championship matches. So I guess we'll have to stay tuned to see.
Yeah, then we'll be calling Kenny Omega versus Adam Page versus Bryan Danielson versus Joe Gacy. So
exactly, it's just a standard match that you'd see at any time. I don't know. I have to tune in for NXT because there's a lot of new faces in it. It feels like I took 2 weeks off, and all of a sudden there's 32 new people in the locker room that have no idea what's going on.
Yeah, you aren't kidding. If you took the first 2 weeks of NXT 2.0 off, you missed.
I have no idea who Von Wagner is. Wagner's not a thing to me.
He is one of the Beverly Brothers' sons. So
okay, well then he's got great credentials.
Yeah, there you go.
Does he wear the same outfit, that purple and silver?
He does not.
Oh,
nor have they made any mention of the fact that he's.
Well, not for nothing. If they're not going to give you the Steiner last name, they're certainly not going to give you the Beverly Brothers last name.
Give it time.
Mm-hmm.
Give it time.
Maybe on the call up.
When Vince sees a mock-up of Von Wagner wearing the Bow and Blink gear, it'll only be a minute before he's in it. So
maybe he'll come out to that at Halloween Havoc, and that would be very cool.
That would be fun. Although, in fairness, I think that Vince himself sees a lot in Von Wagner. So with that said, he might try not to humiliate him. But we'll see. Verdict's still out. Yeah, exactly. All right, Travis, anything we missed?
I don't believe so. I thought it was a good show today. The G1 will be nice, and we'll next week when we come back, we'll have a really clear picture of what that looks like. I'm interested to see what Rampage and Dynamite is. I'm jealous that you're going to be there and I'm not, but I don't know. My jealousy may cost my bank account some money, and I might find a way to get down there. So we shall see. Sunny Miami.
Heritage Night, $10 a ticket with a flag.
I know. I just got to bring a flag, and I don't know. Can I get away with my New Japan Pro flag to get in there for $10? That's not my heritage, but it is somebody's heritage.
It is somebody's heritage. That's true. All right. Well, for Travis, I'm Ryan. We will see you next time, and see you later.
Thanks.